Hey Miles, how are you?
Good, how are you, Jaylah? What's up?
Good, so let's just get started. Myles Bess is the host of KQED's Above the Noise YouTube series, where he dives deep into the research behind the issues affecting the everyday lives of teens, and he has some advice for young voters. What advice do you have for young people that are going to be voting for the first time this year?
Think about the issues that are really, really important to you and who's focusing on those issues. It can be overwhelming. You get this huge ballot, and it's not just the president. There's tons of things on there that, we don't necessarily always talk about. So if you do your due diligence and your research, and that'll kind of, make the process a lot easier.
How can young people make change and fight against racial injustice and systematic racism by voting?
The one thing that I've been seeing is a lot of young people doing things other than voting. You know what I'm saying? We've been seeing a lot of protests. Young people aren't doing this because they're not informed. They're doing it because they are informed. They're doing it because they know exactly what's happening in their communities. They know exactly how it's impacting them and people like them and their peers. Young people have taken a hold of social media, whether it's TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, but translating that to hitting up the polls is equally important. And doing so, we gotta hold our politicians accountable.
How can young people use accessible resources like social media to get involved in the voting process?
There's so many sources and so many tools on the internet nowadays. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can pretty much learn about anything in real time. I also think that making sure that, the sources that you use, scroll down to the end of that article and see, who's funding this website, or who wrote this piece, and where they stand, and then kind of doing a deeper dive and making sure that you're not just relying on one source. You got to kind of cross-reference all these different points to make sure that, you're getting the most accurate and valid information.
If a person that's under 18 can't vote yet, how can they still make their voices heard and make change in their own communities?
One thing that I've loved is seeing young people on TikTok and other social media platforms, and using that to educate themselves and others, protesting, you know what I'm saying? And then getting involved in what's happening locally and making sure that what's happening in your streets, in your town, in your city, in your state. Talking to your friends and making sure that you all are kind of tapping in with each other and making sure that you're sharing sources, sharing information, sharing knowledge. You know what I'm saying? It's not only just access to knowledge, it's what we do with it.
And how do you think young voters will shape the future?
These are decisions that are going to impact us for generations. You know what I'm saying? There's laws that are put in place that have been impacting you and me, and we didn't have a say in there. Some of these things might even be before our own parents were born. So, understanding that and understanding the impact and how, these are things that are going to last for decades and decades and decades, I think is really, really crucial in understanding how important young people's votes are.